In a world where ignorance is comfortable, deep thinking becomes a threat. This phrase might seem exaggerated, even pessimistic at first glance, but pause for a moment and think, how many times have you seen someone be rejected simply for thinking differently? For asking uncomfortable questions? For refusing to accept what everyone else embraces without question? Why do some intelligent people seem to bother others so much? Why is it that even when they're polite, quiet, and often kind, they end up being pushed aside? Why are they seen as difficult, arrogant, or even cold? Is the problem really with them? Or could it be that what we call intelligence actually carries an invisible burden? What if I told you that this has less to do with who these people are, and more to do with the world around them? A world that fears what it cannot understand. Today we'll dive into the mind of Arthur Schopenhauer, a philosopher who never aimed to please. He made no promises of happiness. He didn't write to comfort. On the contrary, his words are like blades that cut through the illusions of modern life. And it's precisely because of that he continues to disturb and fascinate. Schopenhauer stared into the abyss of human existence and didn't look away. He understood that truly thinking also means suffering, that seeing beyond appearances can be just as painful as it is necessary, and that true intelligence is lonely. In this video, we're going to explore why, according to this dark and brilliant thinker, genuine intelligence is so unsettling. We'll reflect on why the most clear-sighted are often excluded, silenced, or even hated. Maybe you've experienced this. Maybe you felt like a stranger among your own, as if you were speaking a language no one else understands. Maybe you've noticed things no one else did. Or worse, maybe you've learned to stay silent, to pretend you don't see, don't feel, don't think, just so you won't seem strange. If that sounds familiar, know this. This video is for you. Because maybe you were never arrogant. You were simply too lucid for a world that hides behind masks. You are not the problem. You are a sign that some people are still awake, and in a time when so many live anesthetized, waking up is an act of courage. So take a deep breath, silence the noise around you, and allow yourself to reflect. Because maybe in the end, the only thing wrong with you is that you see what others pretend not to. Arthur Schopenhauer was born in 1788 in a Europe undergoing transformation. Philosophers of reason were praising progress, science, and faith in humankind. It was the age of enlightenment, a time when knowledge was supposed to liberate humanity from suffering. But Schopenhauer didn't believe in those promises. From a young age, he was a thinker who refused to accept the blind optimism of his era. While others tried to ease the pain of existence with comforting ideas, he preferred to look directly at human suffering. With no filters, no fantasies. For Schopenhauer, life wasn't a journey in search of happiness, but a battlefield. To live was to resist, to think was to suffer, and truth hurt. Still, he chose truth, because to him, living in illusion was worse than suffering while awake. The more intelligent a man is, the more prone he is to melancholy. Schopenhauer. That phrase encapsulates much of what he believed. For him, the greater the awareness, the heavier the burden of existence. Lucidity brings clarity, but also reveals the absurdity of life, the pain hidden in routines, the loneliness behind smiles. He didn't measure intelligence by degrees or titles. In Schopenhauer's view, true intelligence was the ability to see what lies hidden, to perceive the invisible games that govern society, the lies disguised as truths, the conventions no one dares to question. To be intelligent in his eyes was an act of bravery. It was to resist the comfort of lies. It was to live with your eyes open, even if that meant seeing the ugliness of the world. He walked in opposition to optimistic thinkers like Hegel, with whom he had fierce intellectual clashes. For Schopenhauer, Hegel symbolized a philosophy sold out to the system, a way of thinking that served the powerful instead of freeing the individual. While most sought meaning in progress, Schopenhauer declared, "The world has no meaning. The blind will that drives us is irrational and suffering is inevitable." But what may seem dark at first glance actually conceals a calling. Accepting pain is the first step toward inner freedom. Seeing reality as it truly is, raw, harsh, unadorned, is what allows the human being to discover a deeper, more honest truth. That's why Schopenhauer was not merely a philosopher of pessimism. He was, above all, a philosopher of lucidity, the one who reminds us that intelligence is not a crown of glory, but a burden, and that even so it's worth carrying. Because seeing with clarity, as painful as it may be, is still better than living in the shadows of illusion. When we think of intelligence, we usually picture someone with high grades, sharp logic, flawless memory, or a wall full of diplomas. But to Schopenhauer, that was superficial. True intelligence, according to him, does not reveal itself in exams or awards. It is more subtle, more silent, and often more painful. It is born in places few dare to enter, in the deep silence of a mind observing itself, in the solitary contemplation of one who prefers thinking over merely repeating, in the existential pain of someone who looks at the world and can't pretend that everything is fine. Schopenhauer claimed that a truly awakened mind doesn't settle. It doesn't accept prepackaged answers. It is not interested in fitting in, but in understanding. And to understand in this case is to see what others ignore, to perceive the hidden gears behind pretty words, to see the masks of people, of institutions, of society itself. He is not wise who knows the most, but who sees the deepest, an idea implicit in his work. To him, the intelligent one is the one who sees beyond appearances, who notices the power plays hidden in the subtlest gestures, who detects the false virtues that captivate the crowds, but ultimately conceal selfishness, vanity, and manipulation. And that is precisely why genuine intelligence is frightening. Because most people want something else. They seek emotional comfort. They crave confirmation of their beliefs, not their confrontation. They prefer mutual compliments, light conversations, comfortable ideas. The intelligent one, on the other hand, brings discomfort. He questions, he destabilizes, he dismantles the carefully crafted illusions of common sense. And when someone thinks deeply, not just differently, but in a way that exposes contradictions and challenges conventions, that person becomes, often unknowingly, a threat to the system. Genuine intelligence breaks with the predictable. It disrupts the collective mental routine, it deprograms, and that creates unease. Because thinking differently is in itself an act of rebellion. When everyone is walking in one direction and someone stops, questions, and refuses to follow, that person is not merely making a different choice. They are reminding others that a choice exists, and that is dangerous to those who live by absolute certainties. Schopenhauer saw this capacity as a kind of silent curse. To be intelligent, in his view, is to carry the burden of seeing more clearly and realizing how much illusion exists in almost everything. Intelligence, then, is not just a virtue. It is a constant invitation to solitude, to doubt, to the pain of being awake among the asleep. And that's why the intelligent one is not just misunderstood, he is feared. Because where many see normality, he sees oppression. Where many see success, he sees vanity. Where many celebrate order, he senses the weight of invisible domination. He is the voice that whispers what no one wants to hear. He is the mirror that reflects what no one wants to see. And in a society obsessed with appearance and control, true intelligence is subversive. Think about the pillars that hold up the world we live in. Governments, corporations, churches, schools. All of these systems need one thing to function with stability: predictability. They need people to follow patterns, to accept rules, to obey, consume, reproduce, without questioning. The social machinery depends on conformity. Now think, what happens when someone appears and breaks that logic? What happens when someone looks at all of this and asks, but why is it like this? That simple question holds devastating power, because it exposes what many pretend not to see, that most rules are not natural nor eternal. They are constructs, conventions, often fragile, upheld only by habit and the fear of thinking differently. And this is where the role of the intelligent person comes in. They are the one who, instead of following, pauses. Instead of applauding, observes. Instead of repeating, questions. Why should I accept this? Who benefits from this order? What lies behind this appearance of normality? The intelligent person is not satisfied with memorized answers. They dig deeper. They stay silent when everyone speaks. They analyze when everyone acts. And when they speak, they shatter certainties. They are not rebellious out of vanity, but by nature. Authentic intelligence cannot stand the world's hypocrisy. It feels the discomfort of truth like an itch that won't go away, a constant need to go beyond the surface, and that is frightening. Because every time someone thinks outside the box, they challenge those who live inside it. Every time someone sees what others ignore, they threaten the comfort of collective ignorance. Talent hits a target no one else can hit. Genius hits a target no one else can see. Schopenhauer. This quote from Schopenhauer reveals a fundamental difference. While most strive to be efficient within what already exists, the truly intelligent, or even the genius, sees what hasn't yet been named. They point to what lies outside the radar. They perceive what's invisible to eyes trained by routine. And this creates a deep kind of discomfort, because when someone presents a new truth, they unintentionally expose old lies. And when they reveal a deeper path, they lay bare how everyone else has been walking on the surface. The result? The intelligent person starts to be seen as a problem. The one who complicates everything, who sees too much, who says things no one wants to hear. They become a stranger in their own tribe, the piece that doesn't fit, the thorn in a world that prefers artificial flowers. But beware, this doesn't happen because they think they're better. It's not about superiority, it's about depth. The intelligent one feels differently, thinks with greater intensity, sees the nuances that most people don't even know exist. While others are content with the shallow, they dive into the dark. And that's precisely why they are feared. Because they are living proof that there is more, that there are questions without answers. That comfort can be a prison in disguise, and in a world that values convenient silence over uncomfortable truth, the intelligent person inevitably becomes a threat. Now pause for a moment and observe yourself. Do you identify with any of these signs? Do you prefer silence over superficial conversations? Do you feel that many of the words spoken around you are just noise, filler? And that true understanding lives in the pause between sentences? Do you feel drained after empty social interactions? As if you were playing a role that doesn't belong to you just to fit in? Do you notice subtle patterns in people's behavior? Do you perceive inconsistencies that others seem to ignore, as if your eyes could see invisible dimensions of what's being said or done? Do you question the morality of social conventions? Not because you want to be contrary, but because you feel there's something deeply wrong in what everyone else accepts as right. Do you struggle to submit to rigid, authoritarian, inflexible systems? The ones that don't embrace individuality but demand submission? Have you ever been called too intense, complicated, cold, or even heartless, when in truth you were just being honest? Or simply trying to protect yourself from a world that demands too many masks? These are not flaws. These are traits that Schopenhauer would associate with an awakened mind, a mind that doesn't sleep in the noise of the majority, a mind that cannot numb itself with the distractions of the modern world. For Schopenhauer, intelligence was not a gift granted by the gods. It was not a light blessing nor a shortcut to success. It was, in fact, a disguised curse, a deep sensitivity that carries the pain of seeing clearly, a perception so sharp that it sometimes suffocates, as if everything around were too loud, too fast, too shallow, and you were the only one trying to breathe deeply in the middle of the storm. To be intelligent for him was to live in a world that constantly clashes with what one feels inside. It's knowing too much, and at the same time not being able to say everything. It's perceiving what no one else sees, and not being understood when trying to explain. It's living in a constant state of alert, not out of paranoia, but out of lucidity. And this lucidity in a world constantly distracted is exhausting. It isolates, it hurts. That's why many signs of an intelligent mind don't appear in grand speeches or public displays. They hide in the details, in the choice to be alone when the crowd only offers noise, in the discomfort felt in empty conversations, loud parties, and daily superficialities, in the deep longing for meaning, for truth, for real connection. These signs are silent, but if you pay attention, you might realize they've been there inside you for a long time, and if they are, know that you are not broken. You are simply awake in a world that's still asleep. The isolation of the intelligent is not a conscious choice. It's not an act of superiority. It's not disdain for others. It's a consequence of seeing too much, of feeling too much, of understanding what others don't even notice. When you begin to think beyond the obvious, you naturally start to see beyond the visible. And slowly, what once seemed simple becomes complex. What once was fun feels shallow. What once was company becomes noise. You start noticing things others don't. Contradictions in speech, vanity disguised as humility, ego hidden behind smiles. And so, you go quiet. Not out of shyness, not out of arrogance, but out of a painful lucidity that says, it's not worth explaining what cannot yet be understood. The awakened intelligent mind becomes aware of the gap between what is thought and what can be said, between what is felt and what the world is willing to receive. And that's why, so often, it pulls away. Not out of pride, but out of protection. It avoids confrontation, avoids hurting other people's sensibilities, avoids being judged for seeing what others are still trying to ignore. It's like being in a room where everyone is enchanted by a show, but you see the strings, the tricks, the staging behind the curtain. You know that if you point it out, you'll ruin the magic for everyone. So you stay quiet, you observe, you hope someone else will see it too. But most of the time you see it alone, and that, over time, creates distance. It creates distance from social groups, from casual conversations, from easy friendships. Because the intelligent person wants more than that. They seek depth, truth, coherence, and where those are lacking, they can't stay for long. So solitude sets in, not as punishment, but as necessity. And the strangest thing is, it's often a solitude accompanied. You may be surrounded by people and still feel alone, because real connection doesn't come from physical presence. It comes from a shared consciousness. And that is rare. Schopenhauer understood this like few others. He said that the truly intelligent man lives as a foreigner within his own culture, as someone out of place, not because he wants to be different, but simply because he is. And society? Society fears what it does not understand. It fears what escapes the logic of the group, what refuses to wear the same mask, what prefers truth over acceptance. And the intelligent are almost always misunderstood, not because they speak in difficult terms, but because they think deeply. And not everyone has the courage to dive into that depth. So the next time you feel isolated, don't see it as a weakness. See it as a sign that your mind is alive, that you are seeing beyond the veil, that you are not alone because you are cold, but because you are real. If you see yourself in this portrait, If at any point you felt that you think differently, feel more intensely, carry within you a quiet restlessness, then here's a truth you may have never been told. You are not wrong. The problem is not you. The world is often too shallow to understand the depth of certain souls. But that, as painful as it is not a reason to give up. In fact, it's quite the opposite. To be different in a world that thrives on copies is a disguised blessing. And your lucidity, as lonely as it may feel, can be transformed into strength, into beauty, into creation. The intelligent mind needs refuge, not walls. Refuges that nourish it, welcome it, help it breathe in the midst of chaos. These refuges are not found in entertainment centers, in empty conversations, or in the rush of daily life. They're found in art, in philosophy, in the silent contemplation of simple things. They're found in late-night reading, in the moments when you observe the world as if there were something sacred behind the ordinary. And above all, they're found in other equally awakened minds. Find those minds. Connect with those who feel the world the way you do. With those who aren't afraid of depth, silence, or truth. Create bonds with roots, not just branches. Seek connections that don't require masks or too many explanations. Just presence. Read authors who have walked through the same darkness and emerged with words that illuminate. Think of Schopenhauer, of Nietzsche, of Dostoevsky, of Clarice Lispector, of Simone Weil. They won't give you ready-made answers, but they will make you feel less alone. Write, even if no one reads it, even if you don't fully understand what's coming out. Write because writing is a mirror where the soul begins to recognize itself. Observe the world, not in haste, but with depth. See the details, the shadows, the silences. There is truth in them too, and if possible, share, not to teach anyone, not out of vanity, but to find echoes. Because sometimes when you put your pain into words, someone on the other side of the world sees themselves in your voice. And in that moment, two solitudes stop being islands. Dealing with this reality is not easy. But you don't have to conquer it, you just have to walk through it with courage and lucidity. You are not here to fit in. You are here to awaken. And awakening, as Schopenhauer showed us, is always a solitary journey at the beginning, but never a useless one. Intelligence is often celebrated as a virtue, a blessing, a light that guides humanity forward. But what almost no one tells you is that this light also casts shadows. It does not bring only wisdom. It carries the weight of awareness. And with it comes solitude, constant questioning, outrage at injustice, and a silent pain that many cannot comprehend. Being intelligent is not like walking through a blooming garden. It is often a journey across barren ground where each step is solitary and the horizon doesn't always offer hope. Those who see more deeply also feel more intensely, and those who feel more intensely carry wounds that don't show on the body but ache in the soul. Truth has that effect. It sets you free, but first it hurts. It shows you the path, but first demands detachment from everything that was an illusion. It is better to be a dissatisfied man than a happy fool. Schopenhauer. This phrase isn't just a philosophical provocation. It's a brutal reminder that there is more dignity in living with awareness, even if that brings unease, than in clinging to comforting lies. Because once you awaken, you can no longer go back to sleep. Once you've seen reality in its depth, you can no longer settle for appearances. And even if the world tries to silence you, erase you, ridicule you, even if they say you're complicated, strange, or unfit, remember, your awakened mind is a rare gift. It is your greatest power. It's what allows you to see beyond, to feel what truly matters, to transform chaos into meaning. The world may try to dim that light. It may try to drag you into the shallow, trap you in distractions, numb you with empty promises. But true lucidity does not fade easily. It endures, it observes. It survives, and even when you feel surrounded by shadows, remember, they only exist because within you there is a light too powerful to be ignored. So next time someone calls you intense as if that were a flaw, smile calmly. Maybe you're not overreacting. Maybe you're just lucid in a numb world. And the next time you feel alone, misunderstood, or out of place, remember there are others like you. Scattered, silent, watching the world with attentive eyes, searching for meaning amid the noise. You are not alone. You are part of an awakened minority that resists the superficiality of the times we live in. Keep feeding your mind. Read those who came before. Study what stirs you. Reflect on what everyone takes for granted, but above all, never stop questioning. Question what you're told, what others expect of you, what you yourself believe, including and especially question yourself. Doubt is not weakness, it is the beginning of wisdom. Those who never doubt merely repeat. Those who question transform. In a world where ignorance is often celebrated as simplicity, to think deeply is an act of courage. Ignorance can unite. It creates comfort, predictability, acceptance. But only intelligence sets you free. And the freedom of the mind is the only form of dignity that no one can take from you. If this video touched you in any way, leave your experience in the comments. Have you ever felt that your intelligence was treated as a threat? Have you ever had to stay silent just to avoid disturbing others? Have you ever pretended to be someone simpler, just to be accepted? Share it. Your voice might be the light someone else is searching for. And don't forget, in the video description, we've left a list of books to help you expand your awareness. They're invitations to reflect, tools to help you understand where to protect yourself, how to strengthen yourself, and when to remain silent. Because sometimes the greatest sign of wisdom is silence.